Hello, son. What's going on?
Dad, Zayn is gone.
What do you mean he's gone?
I don't know. It happened so fast. I still hear his scream in my head.
The sun blazed high over Santa Barbara, California on July 18th, 2010, bathing Pacific Horizon's Marine Park in a radiant golden glow. The air was thick with the scent of salt water, carried on a gentle breeze from the Pacific Ocean. Families poured through the park's gates, their laughter and chatter blending with the distant cries of seagulls soaring overhead. Children, their faces lit with excitement, clutched brightly colored balloons, tugging at their parents' hands as they hurried toward the main attraction. The Orca show featuring Nani, a 21-foot male orca whose sleek black and white form was a breathtaking embodiment of raw power and untamed grace. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation, the crowd eager to witness the magic of Pacific Horizons. But beneath the surface of this idyllic summer day, an ominous tension simmered, a storm waiting to erupt, one that would shatter lives, unravel dreams, and expose the fragile, perilous line between human trust and the wild instincts of a captive creature. At the heart of this story stands Zayne Marston, a 35-year-old marine biologist and orca trainer whose life was deeply entwined with Pacific Horizons. Zayn's connection to the park was more than professional. It was personal, rooted in childhood memories of wandering its exhibits, mesmerized by the wonders of the sea, and strengthened by his familial bond with the park's founder, his uncle Robert Layton. His relationship with Nani, the park's prized orca, was nothing short of legendary. Built over years of shared moments in the water, their partnership was a dance of trust and understanding, a bond that seemed to transcend the boundaries between man and beast. Zayn often spoke of Nani not as a performer, but as a friend, a sentient being with a soul as vast as the ocean he once called home. Yet on this fateful day, that bond would be tested in a horrifying, unimaginable way, leading to a tragedy that would haunt Pacific Horizons forever and cast a shadow over the marine park industry. The afternoon show was in full swing, the bleachers packed with spectators fanning themselves against the relentless summer heat. The turquoise water of the orca tank shimmered under the sun's rays, its surface rippling gently as Nani glided through it with effortless grace. His massive body, a sleek symphony of black and white, breached the surface, sending towering waves crashing against the tank's reinforced walls. The crowd erupted in cheers, their applause echoing through the park as water droplets sparkled in the air like diamonds. Zayn stood at the platform's edge, his silhouette framed against the dazzling water. His sun-bleached hair caught the light, and a confident grin spread across his face as he signaled Nani with practiced precision, his movements as fluid as the orcas. To the audience, this was a display of harmony, a testament to the magic of Pacific Horizons, a place where humans and wild creatures could coexist in perfect partnership. Zayn had meticulously prepared for the grand finale, an in-water routine, the highlight of the show, where he would swim alongside Nani, their synchronized movements showcasing the profound depth of their connection. He slid into the water, his black wetsuit gleaming, and gave Nani the cue to begin. For a fleeting moment, everything was perfect. Nani swam beside him, his dark, intelligent eyes meeting Zayn's with what seemed like mutual understanding. The orca's massive form moved with grace, his fins cutting through the water as he kept pace with Zayn's strokes. The crowd leaned forward, captivated by the sight of man and orca moving as one, their bond a living, breathing work of art. But then, without warning, something shifted. Nani veered off course, his movements no longer smooth and deliberate, but jerky and erratic. Zayn, attuned to every nuance of Nani's behavior, sensed the change immediately. A flicker of unease crossed his face as he raised his hand to redirect the orca, his signal firm but calm. Nani ignored it. The orca's massive body tensed, his powerful tail slapping the water with a force that sent violent ripples across the tank, the sound echoing like a crack of thunder. The audience, unaware of the mounting danger, continued to clap, mistaking the tension for a dramatic flourish in the performance. Zayn, now fully submerged, tried to regain control, his voice muffled by the water as he called out to Nani, a note of urgency creeping into his tone. But the orca was no longer listening. In an instant, Nani lunged. His powerful jaws clamped around Zayn's torso with terrifying speed, the force of the bite stealing the breath from Zayn's lungs. The crowd's cheers turned to gasps as Nani dragged Zayn beneath the surface, his massive form thrashing violently. Water churned around them, a chaotic whirlpool of foam and spray, as Zayn's body flailed in the orca's unrelenting grip. Nani shook Zayn like a rag doll, his movements driven by a primal fury that seemed to erupt from deep within. Zayn fought desperately, his arms striking uselessly against Nani's sleek, unyielding body, his legs kicking in a frantic bid for freedom. But the orca's strength was overwhelming, his jaws a vice that refused to release. Blood began to cloud the water, a crimson stain spreading through the turquoise like ink, its tendrils curling ominously around the struggling figures. The audience, now gripped by horror, watched as the scene unfolded, some screaming, others frozen in disbelief, their minds struggling to process whether this was part of the show or a nightmare come to life. Trainers on the platform sprang into action, their voices hoarse with panic as they screamed for help. They hurled buoys and buckets of fish into the tank, desperate to distract Nani. But the orca was consumed by aggression, his eyes wild and unfocused, as if the world beyond Zayn had ceased to exist. For nearly 2 agonizing minutes, the attack continued. Nani dragged Zayn deeper into the tank, his massive form diving and twisting, shaking his trainer with brutal, unrelenting force. The water roiled, a maelstrom of violence, as Zayn's struggles grew weaker, his movements slowing as the life drained from his body. The crowd's screams reached a fever pitch, parents shielding their children's eyes, unable to tear their gaze from the horror unfolding before them. Finally, as suddenly as it had begun, Nani released Zayn. His limp body floated to the surface, broken and lifeless, like a marionette with its strings cut. Divers scrambled into the water, their movements frantic as they pulled Zayn from the tank, his wetsuit torn and stained with blood. The crowd's screams echoed through the park, a cacophony of fear and grief. Medics rushed to Zayn's side, dropping to their knees at the tank's edge, their hands pressing frantically against his chest in a desperate attempt to revive him. CPR was administered with mechanical precision, but the damage was catastrophic. Fractured ribs piercing internal organs, a punctured lung filling with fluid, severe internal bleeding that no amount of effort could stem. Zayn's lifeless eyes stared skyward, the spark that had once defined him extinguished forever. He was pronounced dead at the scene, the weight of the tragedy settling over Pacific horizons like a suffocating fog, silencing the park's once joyful atmosphere. To understand the roots of this tragedy, we must journey back to the inception of Pacific Horizons Marine Park. Founded in 1992 by Robert Layton, Zayn's uncle, the park began as a humble endeavor driven by a passion for marine conservation. Layton, a marine enthusiast with a weathered face and a heart full of dreams, envisioned a sanctuary where visitors could forge a deeper connection with the ocean's wonders. In its early years, Pacific Horizons was a modest attraction, its exhibits focused on education and rehabilitation. Small tanks housed colorful tropical fish, their scales glinting under soft lights, while rescued sea turtles paddled lazily in shallow pools. Interactive tide pool displays allowed children to touch starfish and anemones, their squeals of delight filling the air as they learned about the delicate balance of marine ecosystems. Layton's vision was pure, but the marine park industry was a ruthless landscape. As the 2000s dawned, competition from larger attractions like SeaWorld intensified, threatening Pacific Horizons' survival. To stay afloat, the park secured major investments, transforming itself into a spectacle-driven destination. By 2005, it had rebranded as a premier venue, its once quaint exhibits replaced by larger, more dramatic displays. The centerpiece of this transformation was Nani, a 21-foot male orca marketed as the largest and most majestic on the West Coast. His arrival marked a new era for Pacific Horizons, one defined by ambition and grandeur, but also by the growing tension between profit and ethics. Nani's story began far from the sunny shores of Santa Barbara, in the icy waters off the coast of Norway. Born in 1992, he roamed the open ocean with his pod, a tight-knit family of orcas, whose haunting calls echoed across the waves. At the tender age of 5, Nalani's life was torn apart. Captured in a traumatic ordeal, he was ripped from his pod, his mother's desperate cries fading as he was hauled onto a ship. Sold into captivity, he arrived at Pacific Horizons, his sleek black and white markings and powerful physique making him an instant star. But the transition from the boundless ocean to a concrete tank was devastating. Researchers noted early signs of distress, unnatural vocalizations that sounded like mournful wails, periods of listlessness where he floated motionless at the tank's edge, in a refusal to engage with trainers. Nalani's massive body, built for roaming hundreds of miles in the wild, was confined to a space no larger than a suburban swimming pool, and the strain was etched into every movement. Despite these warning signs, Pacific Horizons pushed Nalani to perform. His breathtaking breaches, where he soared into the air before crashing back into the water, sent spectators into a frenzy. His graceful movements, synchronized with trainers' cues, drew crowds who marveled at his power and beauty, unaware of the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. The park's management, driven by the need to maintain high visitor numbers and soaring profits, turned a blind eye to the growing evidence of Nalani's struggle. They saw him not as a sentient being, but as a commodity, a living spectacle whose performances fueled their success. Zayne Marston was the beating heart of Pacific Horizons. Born and raised in Santa Barbara, he grew up under the park's spell, his childhood filled with memories of exploring its exhibits. The ocean was his first love, its mysteries calling to him from an early age. He would spend hours at the tide pools watching crabs scuttle across rocks, or gazing out at the horizon, imagining the creatures that roamed the deep. His Uncle Robert's passion for marine conservation became Zayn's own, a guiding light that shaped his path. By his teens, Zayn was shadowing trainers at Pacific Horizons, absorbing every detail of animal care and performance. His hands calloused from hauling buckets of fish, and his mind sharp with curiosity, marked him as a natural. After earning a degree in marine biology, Zayn joined Pacific Horizons as a trainer, his talent and empathy setting him apart. He approached his work with a reverence for the animals under his care, seeing them not as tools for entertainment, but as beings with emotions, needs, and stories of their own. His connection with Nalani was unlike any other. From their first interaction, there was an unspoken understanding between them, a spark that grew into a profound bond. Zayn often spoke of Nalani with a quiet awe, describing the orca's intelligence, his playful nudges during training, and the way his eyes seemed to hold a depth of feeling that words could never capture. To Zayn, Nalani was not just a performer, but a friend and partner, a creature whose spirit deserved respect. Their performances were a testament to this bond. Zayn would stand at the tank's edge, his hand signals met with Nalani's precise movements, their routines a seamless dance of trust and mutual respect. When Zayn entered the water, Nalani would swim beside him, their bodies moving in harmony, as if they shared a single heartbeat. Audiences were spellbound, their cheers rising as Zayn and Nalani executed breaches, spins, and dives with breathtaking precision. To the crowd, it was magic. To Zayn, it was a partnership built on years of patience, care, and love. But by 2009, cracks began to appear in Nalani's behavior, subtle at first but impossible to ignore. Trainers noticed signs of agitation, sharp tail slaps that sent water spraying across the platform, refusal to perform certain tricks, and episodes of vocal distress that sounded like cries of frustration. Nalani would sometimes float at the tank's edge, his massive body still, his eyes distant and unseeing, as if lost in memories of a life he could no longer reach. Zayn, deeply attuned to Nalani's moods, grew increasingly concerned. He documented these changes meticulously in his trainer logs, noting how Nalani's agitation seemed to spike after long performance days or during crowded shows. He recommended reducing Nalani's workload, introducing more enrichment activities like floating toys or varied routines, and giving the orca time to rest and recover. His suggestions were grounded in science and compassion, a plea to prioritize Nalani's well-being over profit. But the park's management, their eyes fixed on ticket sales and investor expectations, dismissed Zayn's concerns as overcautious. They argued that Nalani's behavior was within normal limits for a captive orca, that his agitation was a minor issue easily managed with more training. Zayn's reports were filed away, his warnings ignored by executives who saw Nalani as the park's golden ticket, a star whose performances could not be scaled back. The pressure to maintain Pacific Horizon's status as a premier destination outweighed any consideration for the orca's mental and physical health. Zayn's loyalty to Nalani kept him at Pacific Horizons, despite his growing unease. He believed their bond could bridge the gap, that his care and understanding could keep Nalani grounded in a world that confined him. After hours, Zayn would linger by the tank, talking to Nalani in soft, soothing tones, his voice carrying over the gentle lapping of the water. He brought treats, extra fish or ice blocks for Nalani to nudge, and sat quietly, watching the orca's slow, deliberate movements. To Zayn, these moments were sacred, a chance to connect with Nalani beyond the demands of the show. He held on to the hope that their partnership could overcome the challenges, that love could tame the wild heart beating within Nalani's massive frame. The tragedy of July 18, 2010, sent shockwaves through Pacific Horizons and beyond. As Zayn's lifeless body was carried from the tank, the crowd sat in stunned silence, the joy of the day replaced by a suffocating grief. Parents clutched their children, shielding their eyes from the scene, while others wept openly, the image of Zayn's final moments seared into their memories. The park was evacuated, its cheerful music silenced, replaced by the wail of sirens as ambulances and police vehicles flooded the parking lot. The once vibrant atmosphere lay in ruins, the magic of Pacific Horizons shattered by the brutal reality of what had transpired. Critics descended on Pacific Horizons with unrelenting fury. Animal rights groups, who had long decried the ethics of orca captivity, seized on the tragedy as damning evidence of the industry's negligence. Within days, protests erupted outside the park's gates, activists holding signs that read, "Free the orcas" and "End captivity now." Their chants echoed through the streets of Santa Barbara, a call for justice that resonated with a public grappling with the horror they had witnessed. News outlets ran round-the-clock coverage, replaying grainy footage captured by spectators, the images of Nalani's attack sparking outrage and sorrow across the nation. Zayn's family, devastated by their loss, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Pacific Horizons, seeking answers and accountability. The legal battle uncovered a damning trail of internal communications, emails, memos, and meeting notes that revealed the extent of the park's disregard for Nalani's well-being. Zayn's reports, meticulously detailing Nalani's agitation and recommending changes, had been dismissed by management as inconsequential. One executive had written, "The show must go on," a chilling testament to the park's priorities. The lawsuit was settled out of court for an undisclosed sum, but the damage to Pacific Horizon's reputation was irreparable. The public's trust, once the park's lifeblood, had been shattered. The fallout was swift and devastating. Attendance plummeted as families, once eager to witness Nalani's performances, stayed away, haunted by the tragedy. Social media buzzed with calls to boycott Pacific Horizons, hashtags like #Justice for Zayn trending for weeks. Sponsors, wary of being associated with the scandal, withdrew their support, leaving the park's finances in tatters. By mid-2011, Pacific Horizons announced its closure, its gates locked, its exhibits dismantled, and its tanks drained. The once vibrant park, a cornerstone of Santa Barbara's tourism, became a ghost town, its legacy tainted by the blood spilled in its waters. Nalani's fate was one of the few glimmers of hope in the aftermath. Animal welfare organizations, galvanized by the tragedy, fought for his release from captivity. After months of negotiations, Nalani was relocated to a marine sanctuary off the coast of Iceland, a vast open-water enclosure where he could swim freely for the first time since his capture. Videos of Nalani's arrival at the sanctuary showed him breaching the water, his powerful body soaring against the backdrop of rugged cliffs, a stark contrast to the confines of his former life. For the first time in over a decade, Nalani was home, his haunting calls echoing across the waves. But the cost of his freedom had been unimaginable, paid in the life of the man who had loved him most. Zayn's story was not an isolated incident. Across the marine park industry, similar tragedies unfolded, each a stark reminder of the inherent risks of keeping orcas in captivity. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with a friend. With your support, we make our content better and better. See you in the next video.